What freshman can make a big impact early for Auburn in 2025? Kyle Rush joins the show to share his thoughts on this edition of the Uptempo Podcast.
You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Let's go. What's up, Uptempo gang? What's up, Auburn family? I am your host, Dustin Smith, and I have a very special guest to talk a little freshman football with me. My guy, Kyle Rush from over at the barn is joining us today. Kyle, how are you, my guy?
Fired up, man. It's been too long. We got to do this more regularly.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, man. It's been since like the middle of the season last year. So
yeah,
it
wasn't, and more than likely, it was probably not a great conversation. Like we were probably trying to figure out how we were not going to lose 10 games.
Yeah, scratching our heads. How can we get this right? But it's a new year, man, new team. And last year, as the season wore on, one thing that I think was a positive was guys like Jalen Crawford, guys like Malik Blockton, guys like Cam Coleman, who you really saw find it as the season went on. And I think there's a lot of guys in this year's freshman class that can do the same for us. So I wanted to get you in here tonight, man, and just rattle off some names, fire off some questions to you, bud.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I hope is, the success from last year isn't too much of a double-edged sword, and it hurts some of the guys in this class from being able to find the field. But I'm fired up to talk about it. I love talking about all these newcomers, making a lot of good impressions, the ones that enrolled early. And hey, I'm ready to see some of these later guys like a Derek Smith and Jacoby Ward. Like, see these guys get in the mix as well.
Yeah, Derek Smith. That's wish he would have been able to get here for spring.
I know, man.
A dynamic athlete. Can't wait to see him kind of figure it all out. Let's start right here at the big one. All spring the talk was Jackson Arnold and Deuce Knight, and I think it fired everybody up just to hear all the positive reports of Deuce Knight about how he was just so advanced. He was further along. Early on, people thought maybe he could be a project. Me personally, Kyle, when I went up and saw him this year, I said maybe there's not so much of a project here because he didn't throw a bad ball every time I went and saw him play. And I'm not exaggerating. He literally didn't throw a bad ball. And then I watched him in that Alabama versus Mississippi All-Star game, and I said, this might be a guy right here. And then you hear all that during spring about how he was protecting the football, how he was picking the offense up. But that's not a knock at Jackson Arnold. A lot of people took that as a knock at Jackson Arnold. So let's say this. Let's say the scenario plays out where Jackson Arnold he comes in and does exactly what Hugh Freeze and Derek Nix want him to do. He protects the football. He plays well. There's really no controversy because from Baylor on, he's consistent. He does his thing. Under that scenario, what does the season look like for Deuce Knight? Are you talking red shirt? Is he still going to be your number 2 guy that's trying to get in there whenever you can? What's it look like for Deuce if that happens?
Man, that is the $1 million question. Ideally, I think for once, I really try to go back and think of the last time where I felt like we did a service to a backup quarterback. In other words, got them into meaningful games and actually did anything other than just handoff practice, actually run a little bit of the offense. I really take out the injuries last year for Florida because like that obviously sped up DJ Lagoy getting play time. But I was actually looking at some of the stats from some of his game logs from whenever he was coming off the bench. And like I think he threw a pass in every game. I think he threw at least one pass in every game, no matter what. So I don't necessarily have to see that from Deuce, but I think the ideal scenario, if you want to keep him around and you got to keep him engaged. So let's handle business, put teams away, and then get him some meaningful snaps to be able to, develop a little bit and get that in-game experience. I think the most ideal scenario would say, hey, let's get him. Let's try the goal. Let's get him, somewhere between, 6 and 10 snaps a game and have a fair amount of pass attempts in there so he can actually learn how to read in an in-game scenario and make those quick decisions and then get out and use his legs a little bit. I get so mad. I got so mad year after year whenever we would get a lead and then you'd put a guy in and then all he did was just hand off the ball the whole time, or we couldn't put a team away quick enough. And then it turns around, you don't get any playing time. So hopefully if the scenario you're saying plays out, maybe that offense is clicking and we're able to put some teams away and jump on some teams quickly and get Deuce some playing time. So I think that's the most ideal scenario. I think Deuce will probably be your number 2 guy. I really do. I think he'll be the number 2 guy, especially if it's later in the season. If something were to happen to Jackson, if it's earlier in the season, who knows? You may roll it with Ashton. But overall, I just want to see a little bit better management. Get him some playing time when you can.
Hugh Freeze, if you're by chance to listen to this, hear me. If Auburn is up by 40 and you put Deuce in the game, throw the ball. To hell
First play, throw it as far as you can.
Baby.
Yeah. First play, let him throw it as far as he freaking can.
Yeah, dude. Let him get some experience with all those weapons, man.
No wildcat stuff either. No wildcat stuff. Like, throw that out the window. Give him real packages. Like, run the real offense.
Hey, I'm all for no more wildcat stuff. No more bringing in your backup quarterback who's a good athlete to have him run a dressed up wildcat. I kind of want to ban halfback passes permanently after what happened in the Iron Bowl. So maybe just chill out on some of that stuff and get the standard offense fixed and running right. A guy that really turned heads in spring as well was Sam Turner. Yeah. And this is one that I don't think a lot of us were expecting when you look at all the weapons in that room. Kind of an under-recruited guy and a little bit underrated in the recruiting rankings. But it was consistent from day one of spring all the way through that he was a guy every day that was turning heads, a big body guy. Kyle, where does Sam Turner fit into the mix? Because we can finally say Auburn's got an arsenal of weapons in that wide receiver room.
You know what's the most to me, one of the more intriguing battles coming into that fall camp is going to be who wins that wide receiver 4 spot. I mean, I don't think Sam Turner did. I don't think he's out of the mix to be your 4th guy off the bench, like your 4th guy off the bench. Like, I think he could be. I'm sorry. I guess that technically would be, I'm not saying 4th guy off the bench, just saying your number 4 wide receiver. There's a really good chance you got between him, Perry Thompson, and Horatio Fields. I mean, Sam was making plays, man. Every time you saw a highlight, it was Sam Turner. Every time Auburn Football posted something on Twitter, it was Sam Turner. I mean, I legitimately think if he can carry that over into fall camp, I legitimately think he's got a chance to, maybe even win that spot, that 4th wide receiver. So he's been a breath of fresh air. If you're like me, you saw it though. As soon as his name became associated with Auburn, I wanted him. Like, I didn't care that he was a 3-star. You could turn on that film and tell this kid's a college wide receiver, and his numbers reflected that. And he made play after play in high school, and then he comes here and he just kind of doesn't check up, keeps it going. So I legitimately, I'm not gassing it up. I legitimately think he has a shot to be just as good as Perry Thompson, just as good as Horatio Fields. He's ready to go. I think he could win that number 4 spot.
Yeah, if he does, it's going to be fun. And that's the thing. You got to recruit elite guys and let them fight it out and see who rises to the top. And sometimes the recruiting rankings are wrong. And if he comes in there and beats out some of those guys, as long as he's productive, it's going to be a good deal for Auburn. So big time win year. Was Kenyatta involved in that one, or was the Atlanta area?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he was, if it's an Atlanta guy, it's like, like the Bible says, you can't come to the Father except through me. You can't come to Auburn through Atlanta. You can't go to college through Atlanta unless it's through Kenyatta. So he's going to have his hands. He's going to have his hands in all of those kids that come out of the Atlanta area.
Yeah, Kenyatta, we appreciate the hard work, man.
For sure, man.
Let's gonna cheat a little bit here. I didn't necessarily say it had to be true freshman. I want to ask you about a red shirt, because if you're a true freshman and you come in and play offensive line, then you're just on another level.
Yeah.
But one guy that Hugh Freeze was just really positive about throughout the season, even in weeks where he ultimately didn't play, Hugh would bring him up in the press conference about just how excited he was and how much he was improving. And that's DeAndre Carter, the big time recruit out of California. We've got a lot of veteran guys in this room, brought in some veteran guys in the transfer portal. But Hugh's high on him. We know he's super talented, still kind of young. But Kyle, can DeAndre Carter crack the rotation this year? And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean starter, but when you get through a 12-game SEC season, you're going to probably have used 8, 9, maybe 10 O linemen before it's all said and done. Is he going to be one of those guys?
I think depending on the situation, I think he's probably going to be your first guard, maybe off the bench.
Okay.
At worst, second guard off the bench. Some of it will depend on who wins that right tackle battle. If Mason Murphy wins it, that's good for DeAndre Carter. If Too Tall Miller wins it, that means Mason Murphy's probably going to be first off the bench. Regardless, he's not buried. Like he's right there. It won't the right injury or someone getting sidelined or someone just not performing and you got to shake it up. I think he's right there on the edge of being able to be. I think he'll easily be the sixth or seventh offensive lineman, and I mean that basically means you're on deck, man. You're on deck to go. So he's progressing like he should. He's got his weight. He got his weight down a little bit, so I think he's good to go there. He came in pretty heavy. He's still pretty heavy, but he came in really heavy. Has really worked on it. I think I'm like you. Hugh really likes him. I think he could be your sixth or seventh guy off the bench, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm sorry, first or second guy off the bench, sixth or seventh offensive lineman. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think he's on deck, and that's where he needs to be as a redshirt freshman. He was killing people. This spring. Like they really. I mean, he's they're very excited about him.
Yeah, it's in this sped up process in this new era of college football. It's so funny. I think about a guy like Perry Thompson, where it makes sense to me that in his sophomore year, he kind of starts to figure it out, in that spring. And a guy like DeAndre Carter, it's like, yes, he's a big time recruit, but you're just going to have to be patient. You're just going to have to wait a little bit. I know we want to see these guys come in and do it right away, but that's a position right there where there's a lot of development. There's grown men in this league. You got to get your weight up. You got to kind of figure out your technique and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to ask you a little bonus question. Is there a guy or who is your favorite offensive lineman? Because I love the 2025 O-line class. Tai Buster, Brody Scholl, very high on those guys in particular. Who's your favorite of that class?
Out of that class, Tai Buster, like he was playing like second team offensive tackle. Like I thought he was going to be sort of like your prototypical center guard guy, and he may still be that guy. Number one, but this kid's come in and he says, I don't care what my ranking was, I'm here to play. He's got a great name right off the bat. Like you got to love him just for that. But he's been a big surprise. I really like Tai. I think he's going to be a player very, very quickly. Going back to DeAndre Carter real quick, one thing that's great with him is that you kept him after his freshman year. And I think the reason that's so significant is because kids will come, stay 1 year, and then leave. And Auburn has you essentially lose your whole – not essentially. I guess if Connor Lew goes to the NFL, which he's getting a ton of draft love, you're going to be replacing your whole offensive line. And next year, DeAndre Carter is definitely going to be a guy you're going to count on. But if you're looking at just the rest of the class that came in the year after him, I really, really like Tai Buster. I think he's going to be a player.
I think he's the meanest player of that 2025 class. Like when you turn on the tape, that's the meanest guy. There's out of the defensive guys and all that. Tai Buster will finish a play, bro. He'll finish up. There might be a couple late hits coming.
Get one. Let's get one. Let's get back to where we get some 15-yard penalties every now and then. There was some offensive lines we had back in Tuberville's days when defensive lines were scared. We're scared of them because you never know what was going to happen. You never know if you was going to get a blow block or a block in the ear hole. I like a little bit of mean streak in my offensive line. We've been too nice for too long. I like guys. I want him to fulfill his last name and be a Buster because he can play.
He's a dog. So let's get over to the defensive side of the ball and a guy that I think is probably one of the more underrated recruits I've seen in the last couple of years. I don't know how this guy was a 3-star with some of these services, but when I look at Elijah Melendez, I'm projecting a DeMarcus Reddick type year.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is maybe you don't see him for the first month of the season, but sooner than later, there's no way, in my opinion, that you can keep this kid off the field. And I think by the Iron Bowl, you're going to be looking at Elijah Melendez as a guy that's came in and made a lot of plays, and you're going to be really excited about his future. Am I off on that?
No, not at all. You probably don't remember. You're probably too young to remember. But Trey Blackman,
I
he
remember Trey.
reminds me. He reminds me a lot of Trey in that you just felt like when Trey was on the field, a play was going to be made. And another difference between him and DeMarcus Riddick is Riddick was kind of used last year. Now he was a playmaker when he went in, but he was kind of almost used as like a gadget. I think Melendez could take over as the middle linebacker. I think he could come. I think he's that good. Like he could eventually take over and be your middle linebacker, like middle to the end of next season, if he can pick up the playbook and be the leader on defense that the middle linebacker needs to be. Like he's got all of the range. He's got the size. He's 235, 240 pounds already. He's got the speed, and we know he likes to hit. So for some reason, man, he just has that Trey Blackman vibe to me. Like if you put him on the field, he's going to make a play. And I just don't think you can keep him. I don't think you can keep him off the field very long.
That Florida game back in the day, Trey Blackman's just flying around the field, dude. I think wasn't he like suspended for some games before that?
Yeah.
And he comes out there, he doesn't know where to go.
He had an interception He had an interception. People forget that play. This was at the end of the half. They threw a Hail Mary, and he picks it off and almost runs it back. And then he had the whole fumble thing. Was it a forward pass? Was it not? He was just a menace, man. And I get so many vibes. Like for example, there was a highlight on his high school film where the quarterback's rolling out and he throws a pass that can't be from he to Melendez further than 3 or 4 yards in the air. So it's coming in there hot. And he almost catches it right out of his hand for an interception. Like he's just that kind of player. And I can't wait to see him play because I think he's going to play quickly.
I think he'll be on like kickoff coverage and punt and all that, going down there and trying to rock the return.
Bless that poor soul that draws him, that's in his lane. Bless that poor soul, because it's going to be, especially the first one. You know, the first one, his very first one, he is going to murder some child from Waco. It's going to be awful.
Don't give them Central Florida boys a head start. He gets it rolling, buddy. He's gonna knock your head off. Exactly. I got one more for you, man. I appreciate your time tonight. Last year it was really guys like Jalen Crawford, Caleb Harris. You know, when you look at that secondary, that were the standout freshmen. Yeah, and there's a couple of guys that had the potential to do that again this year. Look, there's a lot of guys. There's another great defensive back class. What are some names that we should be looking at and in that secondary that can come in and contribute? Because we got a lot of guys in that room, buddy.
For sure. Yeah, there's some dudes in that room. Look, Caleb Harris, he's locked in. Okay, so I don't see him coming off the field unless it's on a stretcher. Like he is going to be, and even that's going to be a challenge because this kid's just a baller. You got to have him in run support. Okay, so to me, that whole lurker safety, that center fielder, is the one that's to me a little bit up for grabs, and I don't see any way that Anquan Fagans doesn't eventually win that job. Like eventually, I mean, I think did he not end A-Day with an interception, or he had a couple of interceptions at A-Day. I think one of them was the last play of the game. I see Fagans as being a guy that steps in. He may, you never know. He could be day one starter at that center field, that lurking safety position. Winters could also be a guy, but his position, I think, is going to be so similar to what Caleb does. They're going to have to be creative and figure out ways to get him to play. He's so good, you can't keep him off the field. But does he have the athleticism to be able to cover, a half of a field, drop back in center field? Or is he going to be more of those that make a play behind the line of scrimmage, be that run support type safety? And if you're looking at a corner, man, Blake Woodby can play. He can play, man. Some of his film, he actually sent me some of his film. He's like, dude, check out some of these practice highlights. And then he ended up posting them a little bit later. But he's got the skills right now. Those dudes that come out of St. Francis are like supercharged and ready to go. The problem with Blake is, dang, everybody that's in front of you. You know what I mean? Yeah. But if he could crack in and be that nickel corner, or that whenever you're getting a lot of receivers in the formation and you're going to need some extra defensive backs and you're going to need corners and not safeties, You never know. He could be that first or second guy off the bench eventually. He's going to be a guy that's going to play early because I think the most ideal situation is everybody gets a little bit of playing time this year. Kay and Lee goes into the NFL, and then Woodby can step in and be that lockdown on the other side of Jay Crawford the following year. Of all the defensive backs, it's hard for me to see Fagan's not end up winning that job and being that guy. He's too good. He's too good.
Yeah, it's nice to get kids out of Thompson finally. Like
Give me all of them.
Yeah, dude.
Give me the best one. Give me the best player from Thompson, from Phoenix City, from who's some other teams? From Hoover. Give me some of these teams, like the best player off those teams, no matter what they're ranked. I just want the best player off that team every single year. And if they just so happen to be, a top 100 player, even better. I love New Boy, man. He can play.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that Woodby where's he at day one on the depth chart? If you had to guess.
So just looking, I think some of it is going to depend on like how healthy Champ actually is.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah. I think if Champ is all the way back healthy, I really think he's probably going to be, you got Ryan Strader in there too. Mm-hmm. It's going to be somewhere in that four range. I think that will be the best case scenario, that somehow he's somewhere like the fourth on the depth chart. Right. I think he's probably the best of the freshmen. I think Donovan Star is going to be good. Devin Williams, he's injured. He's going to have to, he's going to take some time to get back healthy. I think Blake is the best corner out of that class, but you did add Ryan Strader, who's a stud, and he's going to be pushing those guys for, he's going to be pushing Jay, and he's going to be pushing Kay. And so it depends on how healthy Champ is. If Champ's really healthy, he was playing really good football before he got, had that gruesome injury. So I think I'd say let's put him in that 4 range. I think that'd be a good spot for him if he could end up as the fourth corner. I think you're happy with where his trajectory, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So he'll be playing early, if that's the case. And like you said, that kid is one heck of a ball player. A kid that didn't really know much about, just down here in the South, and now all of a sudden we're having to pay attention to all these kids up there in Baltimore. And you mentioned Donovan Star. I think that young man is going to be a playmaker whenever, he has this dynamic athletic ability that you can't teach. And he's one of those guys that can get around the football, and when it gets in his hands, it can be a problem for you. And I like
closing speed. Like that, his closing speed is incredible. So he can afford to miss because he can catch up. You know what I mean? So that's something that's invaluable. That defensive back room, I think there's a decent argument to say that defensive back room is just as talented as the wide receiver room. And I think, imagine that. This is the cool thing, Dustin. Think about this. Those guys are going up against each other in every practice.
Yeah.
Like imagine you're a defensive back for Auburn, and then the first game you play Baylor, and Baylor doesn't have Eric Singleton or Cam Coleman. Like, you played baseball growing up, swinging that bat with a weight on it when you're on deck, and how much lighter that bat feels when you get up there.
Take it off.
You got to feel like it's going to feel similar to that. Whenever you step up and you look across, and you're like, oh, that's not Cam Coleman. I got this thing on lock,
Sure.
And then on the flip side, when Cam Coleman lines up and he's not having to go push on and run on Jay Crawford or Kay and Lee, it's got to feel good there too. So this is what good programs do. The iron sharpens iron, and the competition is like, I would say, well over 50% of development. Those guys know that have each other to push each other. So it's just a huge luxury to have. And man, if you can just get some wins early, I think you could get this thing. I think the recruiting could just explode.
Yeah, it's a conversation for another day. But that first part of the schedule, it's like, man, if you can just get through this with a winning record, 4-2-ish, that back half looks promising. And I think it's fair to say that we all kind of knew this was coming from the recruiting side, to where You know Hugh Freeze can develop relationships. You know that he can recruit as good as anybody in the country. You know that Auburn's going to have everything together as far as NIL and all that. But we're at that point to where recruits don't want to hear the talk anymore. They don't want to hear the plan.
You got to walk
it. Point they got to see it. They got to see it on the field. So would it be, you say maybe look at Florida as an example to where the relationships are built, and then as the season goes on and Florida kind of finished strong, and all of a sudden all these recruits realize, hey, Billy's going to be back, and then they finish in a flurry? Is it you looking maybe Auburn could do something similar like that?
Man, I mean, it's almost an identical it's almost an identical storyline. It really is. I think if you can put it on the field, I think the same thing with Florida. I think kids wanted to go to Florida, wanted to go play for Billy. And I think it's the same thing with Hugh. Kids want to come play for him. Kids want to come be a part of what Hugh's building here, but just got to see it. Just got to see it. And like you said, if you start off 4-2, all bets are off, man. You could be heading into the Iron Bowl playing for a playoff spot. If you could get through that, if you could get through those first 6 games, no worse than 4-2, it could be a really fun season.
Yeah, man. Maybe beat Georgia or Alabama. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be pretty cool.
I wouldn't be mad at it.
Been a little bit. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you. This has been fun. What's going on over at thebarn.com?
Yeah, man. Sign up for our message board, thebarnauburn.com. We got recruiting updates, just the casual off-season conversation. We'll throw out different scenarios, and we're talking NIL right now and what's going on with college football. It's a really fun atmosphere. And then, hey, we're doing a feature on my show every Friday. It's Friendship Friday. If you're a member of the Barn, you want to jump on the podcast, we got a sign-up list. You can jump on. All those have been a lot of fun. We'll have another one this week. So a lot of fun stuff. You know where to find us. Website, thebarnauburn.com, or the Barn Auburn YouTube page.
Yeah, man. Can't beat that. Appreciate you, buddy. Y'all smash that thumbs up button. Share this out on social media. If you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. And I will see you on the next one. It's Roy Dan Meagle. I'm out.
Let's go.